26. That is the number of times Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet, the jet that investigators later called the Lolita Express. Not once, not twice, 26 documented flights. This is not a story about a casual acquaintance. This is not a story about a photograph at a party. This is a story about a former president of the United States and his deep, documented, years-long relationship with the most notorious sex trafficker in modern history. Bill Clinton, the 42nd president, 2 terms in the White House, global statesman, chairman of one of the most powerful philanthropic foundations on earth, and a man whose name appears in the Epstein files more than almost any other. The relationship began in the early 2000s, after Clinton left the White House, through mutual connections in the world of global philanthropy and finance. Epstein donated to the Clinton Foundation. Clinton flew on Epstein's jet. They attended events together. They shared friends, networks, and access to the same rooms of power. This much is not disputed. Clinton has acknowledged the connection. But here is where his story becomes something that his public statements have never fully addressed: the flight logs, documented by aviation records and reported by multiple outlets, including Fox News and Gawker. 26 flights on Epstein's aircraft between 2001 and 2003. These were not short hops. The destinations included Africa, Europe, Asia, and multiple trips to Epstein's private island in the Virgin Islands. Clinton's own team initially said he had flown on the jet 4 times. The flight logs showed 26. When pressed on the gap, his spokesperson said the higher number was accurate, 4 versus 26. That difference is not a rounding error. That is a decision about what to acknowledge and what to minimize. And then came the question about the island.
Little St. James, Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the island that investigators described as a central site of criminal activity, the island where multiple victims testified that abuse took place. Did Clinton visit the island? His spokesperson said no, he never visited Little St. James. But flight logs place his travel to the Virgin Islands region on multiple occasions using Epstein's aircraft. And a Secret Service agent who traveled with Clinton was reportedly left behind on at least one occasion when Clinton boarded Epstein's jet. Left behind. A sitting former president traveling without his Secret Service detail on a convicted sex offender's private plane. If accurate, that decision was not accidental. It was a choice. Virginia Giuffre was asked directly in depositions whether she ever saw Clinton on the island. She said she saw him there with 2 young girls. Clinton has denied this completely. His spokesperson called the allegations totally false. But here is what makes Clinton's case different from every other name in this series. In 2008, Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty to a Florida state charge, 1 count of soliciting prostitution from a minor. He served 13 months in a county jail, with work release privileges 6 days a week. He was allowed to leave jail for up to 12 hours a day to go to his office, for a man convicted of crimes against children. The deal was negotiated by Alexander Acosta, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida at the time. It was called a non-prosecution agreement. Federal charges were dropped entirely in exchange for the state plea. Victims were not told about the agreement before it was signed. Federal law requires victims to be notified. They were not. A federal judge later ruled that this was a violation of the law. Now here is the connection that has never been fully explained. Bill Clinton was not the prosecutor. He was not in government at the time.
He had no formal role in the Epstein case, but his name, his foundation, and his network intersect with the Epstein story at every level. Donors to the Clinton Foundation also donated to Epstein's causes. People in Clinton's orbit were also in Epstein's orbit. The same fundraising events, the same philanthropic networks, the same access economy. When Epstein was arrested again in 2019, Clinton released a statement. He said he had taken a total of 4 trips on Epstein's jet. He said his staff had been with him at all times. He said he had no knowledge of Epstein's terrible crimes. The flight logs showed 26 trips. Multiple sources disputed the claim about staff being present at all times. Clinton has never given a detailed public interview about his relationship with Epstein. He has released written statements. He has answered no questions directly, not once. And that silence is the most significant fact in his case. Before we go to the verdict, we need to address something directly. This series has covered Trump, a Republican, and now Clinton, a Democrat. Both names are in the files. Both had documented relationships with Epstein. Their supporters will say the other side's connection is more serious, but the evidence does not follow party lines. It follows power. Trump had a pre-conviction social friendship he has minimized. Clinton had 26 documented flights he initially described as 4. These are different types of connection, different levels of documentation, and both men have offered explanations that the evidence does not fully support. That is the point of this series. Epstein did not operate in one political world. He operated in all of them simultaneously. He was not a partisan asset. He was a system that connected the wealthiest and most powerful people across every boundary of ideology, nationality, and party. Understanding that system is more important than protecting any name within it. Which brings us to the final question the evidence forces us to ask about Clinton specifically.
3 levels. Level 1. Confirmed facts. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet 26 times between 2001 and 2003. This is documented in aviation records. His initial public statement said 4 flights. The accurate number is 26. He visited Epstein's properties. The exact locations and details are disputed. Virginia Giuffre stated in deposition that she saw Clinton on Epstein's island. Clinton denied this. No independent corroboration of Giuffre's account specific to Clinton has been confirmed in public records. He has never given a direct public interview about the relationship. No criminal charges have been brought against him in connection with Epstein. Level 2. What the evidence reasonably supports. The gap between 4 flights and 26 flights was not a memory lapse. It was a decision about what to acknowledge publicly. That decision undermines the credibility of everything else he has said about the relationship. His continued silence, no direct interviews, no detailed public accounting, is a choice. Former presidents give interviews constantly. Clinton has chosen not to address this one directly. The network overlap between his foundation and Epstein's world was not coincidental. These were the same fundraising circuits, the same donors, the same access points. Understanding who knew what in that overlap matters. Level 3. What remains unknown. What happened on those 26 flights and at any properties he visited. Whether he was ever on Little St. James and what occurred during any such visit. Whether law enforcement ever seriously investigated him in connection with Epstein. What the Clinton Foundation's full financial relationship with Epstein and his donors looked like. Why the Secret Service was reportedly excluded on at least one occasion. The AI verdict. Bill Clinton's case is defined by one thing above all others. Not the flights, not the island, not the denials. The number. A man who said 4
when the answer was 26, has made a choice about transparency. And a man who has never sat in front of a camera and answered direct questions about his relationship with the most infamous sex trafficker in history has made another choice. We do not know what he did, we do not know what he saw, we do not know what he knew. But we know what he has chosen not to say. And in a case where silence protects power, that choice is itself a fact. Trump, Gates, Hawking, Musk, Andrew, Clinton. 6 names, 6 connections, 1 system. Next week, we examine that system directly, the full Epstein network, the names still sealed, and the question of why some files remain classified more than 5 years after his death. Thank you for watching.